I've got 6 books on my March TBR, so I've been wondering how many of these I can get done in 24 hours. So in this video we're going to attempt to read for 24 hours and to read as many books from my March TBR in those 24 hours. So these are all of the books on my March TBR. With some of them I'm very excited to read them, but with others I'm a bit intimidated to read them. And this 24-hour reading challenge turned out to be a lot more chaotic and all over the place than I anticipated. I went through a lot of emotional breakdowns and through a lot of ups and downs, through a lot of different phases of joy and tears and all of the emotions that you could imagine. I also read some very exciting books, some new favorite books, and some very, very disappointing books. So make yourselves comfortable and let's dive into 24 hours full of emotional roller coasters and see how many books I can actually get done in those 24 hours. So I started the reading challenge off with 2 books that I had already begun reading a few days prior. I was about 100 pages into Wisteria by Adalyn, which is the book I read during the first 2 hours of this challenge, and it's the 3rd book in the Belladonna series. I have been eating the series up over the last few weeks. The vibes, the characters, and the storyline all had so much depth, and the writing just really pulled me in, which is why I was very excited for the final installment, but also a bit nervous if the ending would live up to my expectations and if it was also going to be a 5-star read, but we'll see about that. The other book I had already started was Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng, which I was buddy reading with one of my Bookstagram besties. And Everything I Never Told You and Little Fires Everywhere were absolute highlights for me last year. So I was so sure I would also be completely obsessed with Celeste Ng's newest release. I guess we'll find out if I was right with that assumption. Okay friends, time for a little update. The last few days were a lot more hectic than I expected. I really planned on reading every day for a few hours, but it didn't really work out like that because I had therapy and a lot of doctor's appointments, and I desperately had to edit some videos for them to get up at the beginning of the month, my wrap up and my TBR. So I just didn't get to as much reading as I would have hoped, but I feel like it's pretty unrealistic with reading challenges to like really push through. I now got 19 hours and 11 minutes left of my reading challenge. So I've roughly read for 5 hours now, and I got 4 hours and 21 minutes left of Our Missing Hearts, and I'm on page 213 of Wisteria. I'm still really enjoying Wisteria, although I have to say that the process of something being revealed to the main character that the reader already knows about is pretty slow, or has been pretty slow. It has finally been revealed, like it has taken so long, and I'm very intrigued to see where this is going to go now, because now things are getting really interesting and it's all gonna be very intense, I feel like, and I am just so excited to see how the series is going to complete and what the ending is going to be. I also really don't want to let these characters go, so it's really tough. And in Our Missing Hearts, the main character Bert is trying to find his mom in this dystopian world that is controlled by a pact. Like, this pact controls the rules of the United States. There's a lot of book banning going on, a lot of censorship, and people are not really allowed to say what they think and what they feel if it doesn't conform to this pact, to these rules of the United States. And our main character Bert is trying to find his mom, who has left because she is part of this revolutionary act Our Missing Hearts, and he's trying to find out more about this organization and what is actually going on there, and just trying to find his mom. And we're getting closer to that. I feel like we're getting some new information here and there, but we're also only at the point that the main character's at. So he's always researching about his mother, but he's not really allowed to do that. So I got 4.5 hours left on this, and I think my Kindle says I got 4 hours 57 minutes left on my Kindle. I would say let's continue some reading and let's get a few more pages done tonight. I'm a bit emotionally unstable today, and I just had a big long cry session because the audiobook is really getting to me, especially because it's so relevant right now with what is happening in the US and also what is happening here in my country. I just saw something on social media and it triggered something on me, and I don't know, I'm just very emotionally unstable today because of my mental health. So now I came back outside to breathe a bit and to breathe some fresh air and to get out of this negative headspace a bit. But I really want to finish this audiobook today, so I'm probably gonna play some video games while listening to this, because Celeste Ng's writing is absolutely immaculate and is like getting to me so much emotionally, and that's what I love about her books. But it's also just really tough on me right now. I really want to be transparent on here and show all these feelings as well. Sometimes I really don't feel like it, because most of the time I'm just curling up in bed and crying a bunch when I feel like this, but right now I felt like telling you and being a bit more transparent about it, because that's my life. I'm a very mentally unstable person. I struggle a lot with my mental health. I struggle a lot with my emotional stability. Every single day is like a roller coaster for me. I hope you're all doing okay with the current political situation, and I hope you're all staying safe and taking care of yourselves and are trying to think about other things as well, because it can really get to you, and I know that. Okay, so I'm gonna listen to some more of the audiobook, and I'm gonna be back with an update whenever I finish it. Probably gonna play some Animal Crossing now, because I want to do something joyful while listening to this audiobook. But I still really appreciate Celeste Ng writing about all this stuff, because it's so important, and it's so important to feel these emotions. But I usually try to avoid it, I'm not gonna lie, because I have a lot other things in my life that also make me really emotionally unstable. so I am finished with Our Missing Hearts and I finally made it through because wow, it was really heart-wrenching. The thing is, Celeste Ng's books always have a very strong political and moral lesson and very strong characters that you like really deeply relate to, or even if you don't relate to them, you can still like really get where they're coming from. You can really understand them. And I felt like because the focus was so much stronger on the political themes in this book, I felt like the characters were less three-dimensional and not as multi-layered as they were in her other books. And just like the storyline in general, the plot just didn't feel as engaging as it did in other books, even though it had so many important critiques and so many important messages. Because it was so dark, it really felt super hard sometimes to continue listening to this book because I just didn't want to deal with this emotionally, at least not in this mood that I was in the last few days. And this book generally did a lot to me, but just not as much as Everything I Never Told You and Little Fires Everywhere. So I did rate this book 3.75 stars in the end because I did generally really enjoy it, and Celeste Ng's writing always is very great and very moving and super just heart-wrenching, like I said, but it just didn't blow me away as much as her other books did. And I'm very sad about that. I wish it would have gone a bit different, especially because this was the last book by Celeste Ng that I haven't read yet. So I'm like, oh, what do I do now with my life? I wish there were more books of hers for me to devour, but I now have to let her books go until she's releasing another one. But I guess that will take a while because she's only released 3 books so far. I feel like she always takes her time with her craft, which I totally get because her books are incredible. So now I got 14 hours and 36 minutes left to read, and I've yet to finish Wisteria by Adalyn Grace, and I'm so excited but also so scared to finish it. Like I said before, I just don't want to let these characters go, but also I'm so into the story. So yeah, I just can't wait to finish it. Way too emotional. Oh my gosh. I just love these characters so much. Something happened that I knew was going to happen, that we all knew was going to happen, but the moment it happened, like, the emotions just overcame me so much. Oh my gosh. I adore them with all of my heart. I'm just so grateful that I'm currently reading these books. Like, it's such an experience. What a blessing it is to read books you know you're gonna love your whole life for the first time. It's just the most incredible feeling, but it's also getting to me emotionally so much. Like, I can't even put it into words. What am I gonna do with my life when the series is over? What am I gonna do when I finish this book? I really have no idea. I'm so attached to these characters. I really don't want to let them go. I now have 1.5 hours left, and I'm like, I need to cherish these 1.5 hours. Every single second. I need to cherish it. I'm gonna pause the timer for a second. I completely forgot about that. I now have 13 hours left. So I read for about 40 minutes now. A book hasn't done this to me in a very long time. And I'm a bit overwhelmed right now. Like, oh my god. So I think I'm going to read for another half hour and then I'm gonna get ready and then I'm gonna finish this book. But like right now I really want to read on, even though I kind of have to get ready. I just want to read and I don't want to waste any time. I just finished Wisteria. This book was magical, whimsical, the emotion. I have no words for what this book did to me. I have no words. It was absolutely incredible. Everything about this book was magnificent. Please go read it. Please do yourself a favor and go read it. I think this is the best series I'm going to read in 2025, which is so crazy because it's March. What just happened in this book? The ending was so full of plot twists. If you've read Once Upon a Broken Heart, it feels like all of the endings together in one ending. Like all three books. All the endings of all three books. All the plot twists. That's how it feels like. It's insane what has happened in the end. I really don't know how she came up with this. Like, this is so crazy. Thank you, Adalyn Grace. Thank you for writing the story, for bringing so much light into my life. This is one of my, like, absolute favorite series now. Like, absolute favorite series. It's, like, up there with Six of Crows. Like, that means something. I mean, I felt this in my bones the moment I started Belladonna. I was like, I am going to devour this series. I knew I was going to love it so much. And I was right. My friend also told me that I'm going to love it, so props to her for knowing me this well, but she knew and she was right, and I was right as well when I started Belladonna. Like, I knew this was going to be my thing. I'm so incredibly excited. I've ordered a box set of the 3 books and I'm so incredibly excited for it to arrive. It's going to arrive in the next few days, but I need to digest this now. But yeah, it's obviously a 5-star read. Obviously these characters are gonna stay with me forever. I need more. I need 5 more books. Like, please, Adalyn Grace, write more. Okay, I'm gonna switch off now and I'm gonna go to bed because it's 2 o'clock already. It's 2 a.m. So I really need to go to bed. I've read for 12 hours now and I have 12 hours left. So yeah, talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night. time for another update. I have now read 216 pages of Our Infinite Fates and I have around 160 pages left, I think. So let's talk about how I'm feeling about this book so far. I have to say that it's not grabbing my attention as much as I would have hoped that it would. I don't know, I'm a bit underwhelmed, which is very sad because I expected a lot from this book. And there's a toilet roll in my background. Well, just ignore that. My cat was puking somewhere and I had to grab the toilet roll, so that's why it's in the background. But whatever. So the thing with this book is that it is following so many different lives. And we have this main life of Adalyn and Arden, and we follow them through this main life that's like in 2022, set in Wales, and she's trying to survive this curse and save her sister, trying not to get killed by Arden. But then we always get these glances into the past where she has been murdered by Arden and what has happened there. And it's getting a bit repetitive from time to time, I have to say. And also what is bothering me a bit is that we are not getting super much detail in those other timelines. We're only getting like rough details and it's really hard to imagine sometimes. It's really hard to grasp, and also them always being different people again and again makes it sometimes just really hard to imagine in general, and I feel a bit disconnected from the characters. But we'll see. Maybe the plot will thicken and maybe there will be some more going on later in the book. I feel like the tension is building up a bit, so it could get more interesting. But right now I'm feeling a bit meh about this whole story, and it's really hard to continue because of that, because I'm in a slight slump because of finishing Belladonna. So I really want to read something that's like grabbing my attention and it's like not letting me go, and this is not delivering in that sense. Then I have also started The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm actually listening to this one as an audiobook, so I'm not having it with me, like the physical copy is lying back there, but let me grab it for a second. I got the super pretty special edition, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I'm currently listening to this and I'm about 2.5 hours in, and I got about 2.5 hours left. I was listening a bit faster, around 1.7 or 2.0. It depends on how I'm feeling that day. But yeah, this book actually entails a lot of social critique, which I expected. It also deals with Dorian Gray, who is not aging because he wished that his painting ages instead of him. But because this book is set in the past, it has some very sexist characters. Some characters that are saying things where I'm like, I don't want to hear this, because they are saying it like it's a fact. This book is also questioning those beliefs, but in a more subtle way, I would say, more through actions and things that other characters are saying that are not like on the nose. And I'm not really 100% sure how to feel about this yet. I'm really enjoying listening to it and I'm very intrigued to see where this is going to go. But you can really feel the society of that time and age, and I'm just not loving it. But yeah, we will see how this is going to continue and I'm going to keep you updated. I think I already said that, but I got 6.5 hours left of the reading challenge. So yeah, I'll be back with an update whenever I've made some more progress. Okay, now I gotta finish this book. Finished! Okay, I'm done, so let's talk about this. But before I tell you my thoughts about this book, first let me tell you my thoughts about The Picture of Dorian Gray. So overall, this was a pretty interesting story, and I totally get why it's a classic, but I just didn't feel as invested as I would have hoped. And I mean, it was intended that you despise the main characters in this book. And I could definitely see that it was intended and that there was some critique to their whole behavior, but that critique was more subtle, that critique was more shown. But I kind of came to the conclusion while reading this book that classics are just not really my cup of tea. I just didn't really enjoy it as much as I would have hoped. I totally get the lesson in this book. It's a super interesting story and it definitely takes you on a journey and you get to know these like very gruesome characters. But I disliked those characters so much that I just couldn't really enjoy this book. And the ending definitely had some English lesson material because it could have been interpreted in a lot of different ways. And I think that's kind of what makes this book a classic, because it can be interpreted in so many different ways and because it has a very clear lesson as well. So I'm probably not gonna pick up any more classics anytime soon because I feel like it's just not really my reading taste. I used to enjoy classics back when I was still in school and we used to analyze them with my English class and so on. But now I feel like I have changed a bit and I feel like I've learned that I just enjoy books that have a bit more of a modern take, and I think that is totally fine and I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I need to read these like super intellectual books that make me seem super clever and so educated. I just don't feel the need to read those kind of books. I was just reading this because I felt like it could have been an interesting story, and it definitely was, but it just wasn't my favorite story of all time. So I ended up rating this book 3 stars because it was okay, it was good, but it just wasn't mind-blowing to me. So yeah, there's that. And then let's talk about Our Infinite Fates. So, as you know, as I've said before, I wasn't 100% hooked with this book, especially after reading the Belladonna series and finishing that series and then anticipating this book and being like so excited about it. Like, I was going into this with such high expectations, especially because it kind of reminded me of The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue, which is like my absolute favorite book of all time. And there were a few things that bothered me. So let's start off at the beginning. So the first thing that bothered me were definitely the characters. I felt they were very one-dimensional, they felt very flat to me, except for their fate, that they are reborn again and again, and that they have to kill each other repeatedly. It felt a bit bland, a bit boring. Nothing really stood out to me about these characters. They had some characteristics about them that were supposed to make them a bit deeper, but it just didn't give me the kind of depth that I was hoping for. And there was way too much in a dialogue. Like, the main characters in a dialogue was so annoying at times. It went on throughout the whole book. I felt like we couldn't get a breather. Like, they just rambled on for all of these pages and they were just like contemplating their life, contemplating their fate, contemplating why everything is the way it is and what's happening, and they were wondering that again and again. It just felt very annoying to me, and that's why I really disliked the main character. So let's talk about the plot twist. The plot twist made the book even worse. It ruined the book for me, I'm not gonna lie. When I was reading this throughout the whole book, I was like, maybe this is gonna be like 2.75 stars. But then the plot twist arrived and it felt so over the top. It felt so corny. It felt so just out there. I just really disliked the way it was executed. I really deeply disliked it. I wouldn't say that I hated it, not like I hated Verity by Colleen Hoover, but I definitely dislike this book, and it's so tough to read a book that you think is this bad after finishing one of your new all-time favorite series. Like, that's a whole nother level of like, oh, this feels so bad. Like, it was so tough to get through this. I was really fighting for my life to get through this book. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments if you've read it. I would really like to know, because I feel like maybe I'm feeling very particularly about this. I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna read some Goodreads reviews after this because I really want to know what other people are saying about this book. But I've also heard a lot of positive reviews and hype around this book so far, so I know I'm feeling a bit differently about this, and that's okay. I mean, we're all here to discuss books. Yeah, I would really like to know if you've read any of these books that I've read actually. So let me know in the comments. So I did end up rating this book 1.5 stars. Like I said, it wasn't the most horrible thing. Actually, one thing I did like, which I completely forgot to mention, is that they were reborn repeatedly in these different bodies, in these different lives. There were a lot of different cultures being shown, and they were also not tethered to a gender or a sex, which I really appreciated. So it was all a bit fluid, but that also kind of made it a bit harder to imagine them because they looked different each time. And also it was really hard to imagine those different lives because we only got like 5 or 6 pages per life, and it felt really hard to grasp like a whole culture and a whole life with side characters and all of that in just a few pages. And now I've read 4 books out of my 6th book TBR from March, and it's now the end of March because life has been all over the place this month, but sometimes that's how it is. And what are you gonna do? I still tried my best with this challenge, and it was a lot of fun, even though I've read more disappointing books than I've read exciting books, but at least I finished a new absolute favorite series in this video, and I just want more of Adalyn Grace's books. I just need more of them. I really hope that I'm not falling back into a whole nother reading slump now, because I just want to read more of Adalyn Grace's books. We're gonna see what I'm going to read next. And yeah, I would say with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye!